What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Acts of Creation. In this week's lesson, we are going to climb our way out of power chord Purgatory, and I'm going to give you some tips to just try to expand on your power chord playing if you find yourself stuck there. All right? So now there are different types of riffs, right? There are chorus chord progressions, there are verse riffs, so we're not going to dive too much in that. Just kind of give you the tips on how to expand our power chord. So whether you find yourself just playing power chords over a 4-chord progression, something like or any countless variation of that, or you're doing something more something like that, right? So there are countless ways and examples we can do, but let's just do something based off of those, right? How can we add other things to it? So right off the bat, let's get the old tired cliche, you can play thirds, right? So what does that mean? So rather than power chords, right, which is the interval of a fifth, that note is 5 notes away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? That's why they're called fifths. Right? It's when you look in the tabs and you see G5, A5. It's telling you play a G and a fifth. Okay? So we can play thirds. Right? So either minor or major thirds. And for those of you who don't know, the third is the quality note, right? That's going to change the quality of the chord. It's going to make it major or minor. And you'll hear some of that later. All right? So we can either play a minor power chord, a minor third. If we're playing E, put our ring finger on 7, and then reverse the power chord, or inverse the power chord, so it's 7-5. That cross string shape. And the major one would be 1 fret. So if we move down to 5, it would be 5-4. Right? So if we replace that with thirds, right? The riff now, it sounds very different, right? So the adding those thirds is going to give you a certain kind of crunch, some harmony going on, right? Add a little flavor to your riff, right? So we've always see that. Change your power chords to third, classic Megadeth kind of technique. Add some interesting characteristics, right? And so now you might be saying, well, Greg, how do I know what my thirds are? Well, hopefully you have some knowledge of chord scales or scales in general. So if we're playing E minor, right, we have a chord scale, and starting on E, that would be minor, minor, whole step apart, half step major, whole step minor, another minor, whole step, half step major, whole step major. Back to the, and that's just from the minor one, and you can start that and memorize that from the major key. Maybe it's major, minor, minor, major, major, right? So that's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chords. That's where this comes from, and you're just pulling that. So if you're familiar with your chord scales, it'll be in the tabs that you can download, but you'll see it, right? And it lends itself to some notey riffs, right? They're playable in the sense where they create some movement, like horizontal movement between all these things. Fun stuff like that you add into your riffs, okay? So that's tip number 1, adding the thirds into your riffs rather than just straight old power chords, okay? Tip number 2, let's take that power chord shape and expand it a little bit. What are some notes around it, right? We don't necessarily have to know our thirds and our chord scales and everything, right? So if we look at this, E minor or E5, right? This E power chord, 7, 9, 9, starting on my 5th string. There's no major and minor, and we're not going to get into that right away. But let's just take that first note, or the octave, the root note, I should say, right? And let's move that. We can move that a whole step up. Right, you've heard that before. That's an add 2 or an add 9 sound. Sounds really nice. Back to the root. And let's go the opposite direction. Let's go a whole step down or a whole step below. And we kind of have to lift the pinky there and do a little bar. Right? So we have right? So now we're getting out of like, let's use this whole chord or whole chord scale idea and kind of a chord progression within the riffs to more of a static harmony, and we're playing off the power chord. Really great way. And to just negate everything I just said, we can take these chords and just apply them to that riff or chord progression that we're playing. So we can go 7, 8, 3, 5. So we're still following that. Right? Gives it a very different sound. So right there, adding in those notes around, we're changing the shape of our power chord, right? Fun ideas. So far, we've taken our power chord riffs, we've changed power chords to thirds, major and minor, right? Cool. And we've also then taken the power chord shape and changed the upper melody note. And adding that add 9 to our chords. So hopefully that opens up. And again, those chords are very playable. You can pick them out, and again, new ideas. So next we can expand on that bar chord or the power chord further and make actual minor chords or major chords on them, right? Just continue the power chord up. Right, so adding just the normal bar or the major and minor quality of the power chords is another step. We might not be looking for that because that sound is not what we're looking for. We want something more emotive, right? So we can combine some of these notes. We played this second before, this add 9. Well, let's combine that note with the minor bar chord. Now you get this really lush, expressive minor chord. We're getting into the expensive extended harmony, right? We've now taken power chords and we're throwing them out the window, and I just want to show you some examples of some advanced or extended chords that you can use, okay? So we have this E minor, 9, 4, 7, right? And all I'm doing, I'm taking the minor bar chord, adding the 11th fret or that 9th interval, so it's 7, 9, 9. I'm 7, 9, 11. With my ring finger, I'm grabbing the 8th fret of the B string. You get that chord. That's where that's coming from. And so all I'm doing is taking these notes off and just playing the low open string. And then rather than C major bar chord, let's do my favorite chord. Major 7, sharp 11 chord, so that'd be 9. Skip a string, 9, 9, 7. Hear the difference? C major. Some extra color and tension in it. And then we have a B7. Sharp 5, real crunchy, right? 7, skip a string, 7, 8, 8. I'm not going to talk about where those chords come from, but it's E harmonic minor, so there you go. Okay, so cool little really nice kind of advanced, crunchy, expensive chords, right? So we've gone from power chords, we've added thirds up and down, we've added some melodic notes just to the power chord, and then we've also expanded the power chord into actual chords. And we can get all notey and slip-slidey when we get into that, but maybe we'll save that for another lesson because we've listened to me talk too much already. So down in the description below, you can find a link for all the tabs. As always, let me know what you come up with. Until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.